knight b5. Fantastic move. First he attacks the d6 pawn, and notice if you go knight g6, you're already risking spoiling your structure here on the king side, which is not the end of the world, but it's not something that you can do very lightly. So this is quite a problem that Magnus is facing for the time being. But I guess he can go for this passive move knight e8, although it looks quite terrible. He goes knight e8, but he's missed Suleymenov's response here. White has a very, very strong move, which starts with knight g5, but such a tough move to play here, because you're putting your knight here with the action of the queen, wanting to push forward with e5. Oh, he finds it. What a move by Suleymenov. Fantastic move. e5 in the air, and look at this unfortunate position of the queen. Whenever you take e5, bishop e5 sort of traps the queen. So these are the tactical possibilities in the air. Now h6 can be played, but there is this unbelievable sacrifice with knight f7. Okay, Magnus doesn't go there for the time being. He goes knight g6, which is very logical because the knight now blocks the queen's path. However, e5 is still a brilliant move. The reason? Because after you take, there's bishop e5 and Suleymenov finds it. Magnus pushes his pawn quickly. Now this is psychology, because Magnus saw that if he takes the pawn, bishop e5 is losing. He cannot take with the knight as there's a mate here on h7. So he pushes the pawn forward and he tells Suleymenov that he's fine with his position, gets up from the chair. Alisher Suleymenov now thinking, and he plays his queen to b3. He's so cool and calm. He just moves his queen away and he tells Magnus that this position of yours is losing. The reason for that is that these pawns are too soft. Well, Magnus says, I'm going bishop e7. Next move, I'll put my knight on f8 and save everything. I'm also hitting your knight. If you go back knight to f3, dc4, I'm completely fine. So for Alisher, the margin of error is very small, but he plays knight f7. What a classy move. And the main thing that Alisher now is focusing on is the black king. The black major pieces are on the other side of the board, so the king is sort of lonely. Magnus takes the piece and he says, show me what you've got. Well, c takes d5 is what I've got, says Alisher. Now the threat is d6, d7, the pawn moving forward. So you will have to take on d5 either with the bishop or the pawn. Magnus removes his jacket, takes on d5 with the bishop, but it's not going to be helpful. Rook takes d5. What a sacrifice there. Another sacrifice. He's given up a piece. Now he's given an exchange. So he's a complete rook down. E takes d5. And I think the attack will continue. Queen takes d5 is coming up now next. And this is brilliant. Queen takes d5 check. King moves back. And now how do you continue and finish it off? Because it's not so simple. One idea is rook e3 to f3. That you can think of, you're a rook down, but Alisher finds knight d4, and the amazing part of this move is that knight e6 is a massive threat, and if you play knight c7, I go back with a check, and now play knight c6, hitting the queen, queen b7 is met with knight e7, and you lose the queen. So that was the tactical refutation there. Knight f4 played by Magnus. He knows that he's losing the game, because knight f4, now with queen f3, you can simply pin the knight, and exactly what Alisher does. Now g5 cannot save you because g3 is coming in. So if you lose a piece here, then you will only be an exchange down, which is nothing much in such a position where you already have two pawns. King g8 played by Magnus, trying to escape. Alisher simply takes the knight. Materially, black is doing okay. He has a rook for white's bishop and two pawns. However, the problem here is that after queen b7, this bishop is going to come into the game, maybe via g3 bishop h4 or d3 bishop e4. These are the possibilities. And Alisher now goes knight to f5. He attacks this bishop on e7. He's also looking at e6 to unleash the power of his other bishop. You can see Magnus knows that the writing is on the wall. He plays b5 just to stop bishop c4 check, but that move absolutely has a tactical refutation. You can just take off that pawn, and that's exactly what Suleymenov does. You cannot take with the queen because check, king h8 and queen f8 is checkmate. And so what do? You go bishop f8. However, unfortunately now you are 3 pawns down and already white is ahead in material. Alisher now goes bishop c4 check. If you take here, you will be equalizing the material and be 3 pawns down. So he goes king h8. Magnus trying to fight hard in this position, but actually there's nothing much left to be done. Knight at 6, brilliant move. Threatening a check here, also threatening to take the bishop. This seems like the final nail in the coffin. 31 moves have been played. Magnus Carlsen sits there, resigns, puts forth his hand in resignation, and Alisher Suleymenov has won the game of his life. What a victory there. This is the first time that Magnus has lost against a 25